Let's begin by stepping back for a moment and reflecting on the beliefs and perceptions that we hold about risk, safety, and the world around us. You see, there's a place where those beliefs live, somewhere just beneath the surface of what we think we know. And those beliefs, they guide us, shape our decisions, even though sometimes they don't even seem to make sense. So imagine, if you will, crossing a busy street. There's that moment right before you step out, when your heart might skip a beat. The mind races and you wonder, is it worth it? There's a risk, yes. But haven't you crossed the street many times before? What would happen if you never crossed? If you never took that step? You'd still be where you were, confined within your own small world, unable to move forward. And yet, you've taken the steps before, and you'll take them again. The risk, in that case, seems much smaller than it might have in your mind. Now think about the larger picture. The street was crossed because you saw the reward in the long run. But so often people are trapped in the immediate thought, the immediate feeling. When you extend the consequence of a decision, they start to see things differently. They're not thinking long term, but when they do, they realize how small the initial hesitation really was, how small it feels in comparison to the larger opportunity. You've seen it happen, haven't you? Maybe in a conversation where someone's defending a point, a belief that feels so strong, so unshakable in that moment. But when you stretch the thinking, when you make the consequence bigger than they ever considered, you watch their certainty waves. It's like drawing a circle and then suddenly drawing a much larger circle around it. That small circle now seems insignificant in comparison. But notice this. When they look back at their initial thinking, when they re-examine the reasons they gave, they don't have the same certainty they had before. That's because emotional decisions, when looked at from a broader perspective, they lose their hold, they fall apart. And you've seen this happen too, haven't you? Those initial justifications, those sweeping generalizations, they crumble when the full weight of reality is brought into the picture. Now imagine being in a conversation where someone says, crime and poverty go hand in hand. It's a blanket statement, isn't it? What if I turned that around? What if I said, well, thinking like that would ensure that everyone who's poor gets locked behind bars? See, when you break down those large general beliefs, you see the flaw. It's like a house of cards that falls with a single touch. You might even remember a moment where someone shared a huge reason for why they couldn't take a chance. And they provided so many justifications. You felt the conversation slip into a confusion. You see, when too much is given, when people share all their beliefs, it's like opening the door to your inner world, letting others see all the fragile structures that you've built there. The fewer reasons you give, the more solid your position. Because in those reasons are the very vulnerabilities that others can use to shake your foundation. So why expose them? The art of persuasion doesn't come from bombarding others with every reason. No, it's about choosing the fewest, the simplest reasons that align with the truth of your experience. And then you build your belief around them. That's where strength comes from. Because when you speak from your core, from a place of certainty, the weak arguments, they just fade away. Like a shadow retreating when the light is shone on it. Have you ever noticed how easily a simple, well-crafted argument can be shattered when you extend it beyond the familiar? Imagine taking a person's belief about a situation, a belief that feels certain to them, and stretching it out to the most extreme point. Suddenly it becomes absurd, it becomes laughable, because now the very thing they held tightly, it's exposed as being weak. You've probably seen it too. People so caught up in defending their point of view, they can't see the similarities between the argument they're making and the one they're accusing someone else of. The liberals, for instance, pointing out the very thing they themselves are guilty of. They're so focused on the content, the details, they don't see the mechanics behind it all. And when you make that connection clear, when you point out how they're doing exactly what they claim the others are doing, you see that realization. The mental gears shift, and they can't ignore the truth. History, after all, is written by the winners, isn't it? The story is always told from the perspective of the one who holds the power. We've all seen the news, haven't we? How easy it is to make sweeping statements, to generalise. Governments are corrupt, they say. And yet, we rarely stop to ask ourselves, is every politician corrupt? The moment you start asking questions like that, the structure of the belief begins to falter. Let's say, for a moment, you believe all politicians are corrupt. Well, keep thinking that way and you'll never gain the power you desire. Because you confine yourself to a small corner believing that corruption is a universal truth. But ask yourself, do you think you can have power without being corrupted? What if the two don't have to go hand in hand? What if those who take power can hold on to their integrity? The moment you question that belief, the entire structure can begin to shift. But let's take it a step further. What if the problem isn't about power at all? What if it's about what you do with that power? Can a leader remain true to themselves and still lead effectively? It's thinking like this that moves the boundaries. It's thinking like this that opens up new levels of possibility and breaks us free from our confines of the box. And if you hold onto these beliefs long enough, if you keep extending them, building upon them, you'll see how weak those original beliefs really are. Because when you stretch them out, they lose their grip on reality. They become so absurd they fall apart. It's like trying to hold on to something slippery, something that's constantly slipping through your fingers. So the next time someone tells you about corruption, about how all politicians are the same, or how all the world's problems are caused by one group or another, just ask yourself, are they really seeing the full picture? And if you extend the consequences, stretch them beyond what they've considered, don't be surprised if you start to see those walls that they've built crumble piece by piece. You've done it before, haven't you? Seen the cracks, watched as beliefs fall apart under their own weight. And you've realised that the more you look at the world in this way, the more you understand that nothing is as fixed as it seems. What are the beliefs that hold you back? What are the ones you've accepted without question? It's time to see them for what they really are. And when you do, you'll be free to step forward, to cross the street, and to take that next step. Let's begin by